Jayden Daniels went up to Motown and put the stomp down on the Detroit Lions. I'll tell you why it's a big deal now and moving forward here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You got that right. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. We appreciate you joining us, and you can join us wherever you get your podcasts, whether you watch those podcasts or listen to those podcasts. Whatever you do, make sure you tap into that location each and every day and wherever you do it at, so you do not miss an episode of Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 off instantly when you play your first $5 bet. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day. And I'm joined on Mondays, as usual, by the local expert and the national expert, my brother Julian Counsel. We're going to lay it down for you and tell you all about these playoffs. At the end of the show, we're going to talk about sensational Saquon and Jalen Carter. It's good to have a great player on both sides of the ball who can close it out like Mariano Rivera, and that's exactly what happened. Lamar's late surge falls short. We're going to give him some accountability, but we'll also give you some scenarios. At least I'll give you some scenarios to tell you why in other situations just like that, we actually praised the quarterback. Jayden Daniels keeps his cool and Washington moves on. Julian, that's where I want to start. A lot of hyperbole is going on around about this kid, Jayden Daniels. Everybody's saying, hold on, man, we need a bigger sample size. I don't need a bigger sample size to see a dude doing something that he's not supposed to be doing at this stage of his career.
Yeah, I go back to Monday night after the Vikings lost that game and the way that Sam Darnold played in the final two games. And you look at the season in totality, he was excellent for Minnesota. But at the end of the day, he didn't win the games that mattered. And we look at this season as a rookie for Jayden Daniels. He's been excellent in the games that they've needed. That win against Philadelphia on the road a couple weeks ago, the win on the road last Sunday against Tampa, then to go and do what he did on Saturday night against Detroit on the road. He's got the goods, and it's hard to not sit here and believe that he is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL moving forward after one season. Of course, need to see more to find out if we can carry over that consistency, because we talked about CJ Stroud in a similar light last year, and he certainly wasn't as good this year, but still his team was back in the divisional round. We'll see what Jayden Daniels does moving forward, but so far, boy, he has completely turned around the franchise's fortunes, and a city is right there at his feet, just bowing down as he's been outstanding.
Yep, and I like it. He's unflappable. He's unflappable under pressure, and when that field goal doinked in against Tampa, he just got up off the bench and just walked out to the middle of the field. He's unflappable then too, man. He doesn't get too high and too low. Last week, Friday, I think I used something from our squad shows where David Harrison, the host of the squad shows, was saying, look, man, y'all sitting there acting like the Washington Commanders ain't got a shot. At the end of that, Ross Jackson said this: I got a feeling that come Monday morning, we're going to be talking about Jayden Daniels over anybody. Alas, that's what we're doing. But here's my man, David. He was up in Detroit, and he's going to flex on you a little bit and talk about this game.
We were promised an exciting slugfest between the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions, and that is exactly what we got. This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast, and following the win in the divisional round over the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders are now 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl, 2 away from getting a 4th Lombardi for the franchise in what has been a magical season, and it is not done yet. To somewhat quote Terry McLaurin following the wild card win, nobody outside of the Washington Commanders fan base, a few people in the local media in D.C., gave the Commanders a chance, but they not only came out and got a win, but they took the game by the throat. 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. Quan Martin with a pick 6, rookie Mikey Sanderstill with 2 interceptions on the game. It was quite the performance indeed. And now we're going to wait to find out if they're going to take this show on the road to Philly or to Los Angeles. But for more on this game and everything going on with the Commanders, check out the Locked On Commanders podcast 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, we kind of know the answer to that one. They're going to Philadelphia to play the NFC East Eagles, and we'll get to them in a little bit. Lots of disappointment, lots of elation in Washington, lots of disappointment in Detroit. Washington started off slow and finished fast. Detroit has been going 100 miles per hour all year. Things came to an abrupt ending in Detroit for the Lions, man. And Dan Campbell blamed it all on him, and I like the ultimate approach to doing that, but really this was about Jared Goff.
Yeah, not the best game for Jared Goff. 4 turnovers. I mean, Jameson Williams also, he has that interception, which I think is far more ill-advised than any of what Jared Goff threw. And you look at it, I mean, that guy has some of the worst judgment of anyone in the NFL. And we saw the pumps that he did, the celebration, and his teammates had to go get him before the third one because, that gets penalized. Shout out to Key and Peele there. And then that interception is just ridiculous. But Jared Goff did not play his best football in this game. He's had a game like that before where they overcame it on a Sunday night against Houston. But this is a completely different team in Washington that's been on fire. And you just cannot win against teams at this stage in the season if you're going to turn the ball over 5 times. Your quarterback's going to turn over 4 times. And Jared Goff's still been a good player for Detroit the last couple of seasons. He still is someone who's deserving of the money. And it's unfortunate this is the way it ends. But sometimes it's just cruel. And I talked about this last Monday with you. With Washington, Dan Campbell said last year, that may be our only shot. I don't know what he told them in the locker room after the game, but they had a bunch of injuries this past season, which limited them once they got to this spot. And the only reason I felt like they still had a chance to go to the Super Bowl was because they got that 1 seed. I did not see this being a team that was going to win 3 games. Washington now, Jayden Daniels, as good as he is, we don't know what's guaranteed in the future because nothing is guaranteed. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy. We don't know if Terry McLaurin is going to be as good as he's been. We don't know about this defense moving forward. This is their shot. And they've been waiting a generation to be in this position. Washington has, that entire city, that region has, for the Commanders to finally be right where they are right now. So they got to take their shot, and we'll see if they can get it done. They've already beaten Philadelphia this year. That game actually, I said earlier, was on the road. It was actually at home a couple weeks ago. This could be Washington being one of the stories that we've seen, one of the best stories we've seen in the NFL the last couple of years. And we thought that was going to be the Lions. Well, here's another franchise that has been an utter embarrassment for 20 plus years. That's now come out of nowhere. And they're right here on the doorstep of a Lombardi trophy.
I'm gonna tap into that and give a basketball analogy to it, but we got to hear from our brother Matt Derry here on Locked On Lions.
A stunning turn of events in downtown Detroit tonight as the Lions season comes to an end. Commanders beat them in the NFC Divisional Playoff round, 45-31. It is an absolute stunner because Detroit came in a 9.5-point favorite. Everybody thought with rest and getting some healthy players back that the Lions would cruise in this game, but they could not stop Jayden Daniels and the Commanders offense. They got beat, the Lions did, at their own game. The Commanders were physical, and Detroit turned the ball over 5 times, which cost them in this game. A 15-win Lions season and the number 1 seed, it's all gone. The Commanders beat them and send them home. Lions lose 45-31. More to come on Locked On Lions.
The NFL is a game of attrition. It just matters who's standing at the end. Doesn't matter how you start, doesn't how you finish. It's about who's standing at the end. Quick parallel with Detroit. They always have this happen to them, bro. The Detroit Pistons did a lot of heavy lifting to carve through piece by piece the Boston Celtics back in the late 80s. And then when they got through them, they went brick by brick and they got through the Lakers. And right when they were ready to start celebrating, here come the Bulls and they knocked them off. You just said Washington. We thought this was going to be Detroit's time. Well, here comes these young whippersnappers. Thank you. Appreciate you doing all that hard work the last couple of years. But guess what? We're about to run this now because they're a little bit younger. Detroit is about to lose their coaches. I don't think the window is necessarily closed because of everyone that they're getting back and because the people that built it, they're still there. You build it once, you can do it again. Now they just have to add to it a little bit. But I do believe the rabbit is no longer with the gun. Nobody looks at Detroit as this Johnny-come-lately team because somebody has now come lately behind them. And now they're going to be a team with a bullseye on their back. And it's going to be a little bit tougher for them here moving forward.
I'm not so sure they're going to lose both their coordinators. Let's wait and see what happens. I am very curious to see how owners are going to react to this loss. I know a lot of people made something out of the fact that Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson both were interviewing, and how does that impact their preparation? I don't think that them interviewing for jobs this past week is why the Lions lost this game. I just think that, as we've seen, attrition, you brought it up, they've had a ton of injuries. Aiden Hutchinson did not play in this game. Plenty of guys, they had a player break his arm in the first quarter that they needed. So
Ali McNeil,
this is just a culmination of all the things that we've seen. It finally caught up to him, unfortunately, on the biggest stage, and they turned the ball over. Like, they didn't turn the ball over for, is that the 5 turnovers? Is that on Aaron Glenn for talking to the Saints last week? Is that on Ben Johnson for talking to Robert Kraft? That's ridiculous, but we'll see, because Ben Johnson, he's been pretty particular about jobs, and he's wanted to finish the job there in Detroit, and they did not finish the job. So maybe he comes back, and we'll see. Aaron Glenn, I think, should get a job as well as Ben Johnson, but the NFL, they can be weird. So we'll see if he gets a job. But I do think that probably both of them are gone, but it would not be surprising if Ben Johnson decided, actually, I want to stick around for another year and try and see this thing through. We'll see.
I had some Jaguar fans, the team that I cover, their job's open. I had some Jaguar fans go, yeah, I'm all good with Johnson and Glenn. Just go ahead and give me Liam Cohen. And I'm like, you do realize Cohen got beat last week by the same team.
Jags fans are all good. Come on.
Yeah, what kind of sense does that make? The logic that people use, folks can think what they want to think, but the logic that people use sometimes, I'm like, the other thing the Jaguar fan says, no, we need an offensive coach with Trevor. We need an offensive coach, somebody that knows offense. And I said, well, you just had an offensive coach who won a Super Bowl. You just had an offensive coach who played quarterback in the league. Don't you think that you need a little bit more than that? Folks just only can see what they see up front. Hopefully the owners around the league will make better decisions for these jobs.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, a lot of talk about Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Turned out to be one-sided, if you ask me. But the side that matters most is winning. And that's exactly what Josh Allen did. We'll discuss that game and more here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. That's right, man. If you are starting a small business, you need to grow it in 2025. It comes down to how well you can hire. And let's just face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. I was so busy worried about permits, dealing with contractors, dealing with regulations and codes, I forgot I was about to open my barbershop and I needed people. And that's where I called LinkedIn. You can hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. One more time, linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And today's show is sponsored in part by our friends over at FanDuel. All right, it's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like touchdowns, per person, like total passing yards, for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Saquon didn't slide this time. So if you had him with a touchdown, guess what? You got it. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, moving on here on Locked On NFL with Julian Counsel, the host of the co-host of the Monday edition, guest Locked On NFL. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, Lamar Jackson. I am of the firm belief that yes, in the first half, I said, oh no, you know what this means. You got to win it now, right?
Yeah.
And then he came out of like gangbusters, where he didn't leave a bunch of room and error for margin for error. And unfortunately, Mark Andrews had the worst game he's had in his career, in my opinion. I give him equal blame. It's a team game. But, Julian, here's the example. In 2013, Jameis Winston had a terrible first half against Auburn. Lit it up in the second half. They won with 6 seconds left because Kelvin Benjamin caught a ball with his fingertips. Mm-hmm. Way before that, I think it was 2007 or something like that, Tim Tebow threw 2 picks in the first half against Oklahoma, gave a speech in the second half, and then
30 minutes for the rest of your lives.
Yeah, the rest of your lives. And then the defense bailed him out in the second half, and Tebow is a hero, still a hero for that. Lamar Jackson, though he played poorly, did every single thing an MVP should do in the second half, and Mark Andrews just dropped the ball.
Yeah, and let's also understand that Oklahoma in a national championship game never gets it done.
Shout out to the Sooner
Nation. I look at that game, like after it yesterday, I walked upstairs and I just thought that's a complete and total team loss for the Baltimore Ravens. Like, it's not all on Lamar. It's not all on Mark Andrews. Like, that is a team loss for Baltimore, and it is a team game. And it's unfortunate. Like, I'm happy, at least for Lamar, as far as the discourse around the game. I haven't watched any of the other shows on Monday. Like, I don't know what anyone's being said there on NFL Network or on ESPN or on, God forbid, on FS1, which I'll never watch. Like, I don't know what they're saying. But you look at the game, like, actually, you look at the stats, Lamar threw for more than double on the nose passing yards than Josh Allen did. And this is not to say that Josh Allen was bad, because Josh Allen absolutely was outstanding in that game yesterday. But Lamar had more passing yards, had a better QBR, had a better passer rating. It wasn't completely on him that they lost that game. It was on the turnovers that he had, that Mark Andrews had, that the team also just not being able to get out the field in certain situations, that those issues that they had penalties. And I look at that game. You know, the fumble that he had led to a touchdown. Lamar's the first interception kind of felt more like an arm punt than anything. The Mark Andrews intercept or the fumble later on, like that obviously is tough when you get a stop. It's 24-19, a chance to go down the field, potentially take the lead. The drop there on that 2-point conversion. And that's 2-point conversions where he had an open receiver and they're unable to convert on both of those opportunities. So it's missed opportunities, it's turnovers, and it's going up against a really good Buffalo Bills team that just was better than you on that day. And Buffalo's a team that has not lost turnover battle all season long. Baltimore had 11 turnovers going to yesterday's game. They had 3. You just can't win again, with Detroit. You can't win at this stage when you play that bad and give up that many opportunities to another team that is as good as the Buffalo Bills.
Yep, you're right. And one team celebrating and another team is not. We're going to hear from the one that's celebrating, my man Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. Check this out.
In the battle of MVP hopefuls, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson for an opportunity to get to the AFC Championship game, the Buffalo Bills come out on top. I'm Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills, and for all the hype of this game centered around Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the story is the Buffalo Bills defense and their ability to force 3 turnovers from the Baltimore Ravens offense. The story for the Bills all season has been a big play defense that led the NFL in turnover differential. A lot of times in the postseason, games are lost more than they are won, which is exactly the case for Baltimore and them coughing up the football 3 times, narrowly losing to the Buffalo Bills by 2 points. Mark Andrews drops the 2-point conversion. The Bills are on to Kansas City for a much-anticipated showdown with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Bills looking for an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl, and they're 1 win away.
So I got to give Buffalo credit. While we're sitting here lamenting Lamar, we got to talk about the winners, and that's what I'll do. We just talked about coaches getting hired and leading, and we just talked about why it's important to not necessarily have a play caller, but a leader of men. To convince your MVP quarterback that you're not going to put the ball in his hands and let him just air it out, that we're just going to get first down and we're going to limit possessions and we're going to play this game in a condensed form while you're in a battle, or at least a PR battle with a whole bunch of people about what the MVP is. I think that takes a leader of men, and I think that takes an approach of team first. And that's what leaders do. They don't sit here and want to let Joe Brady show how good of a play caller he is. That's the perfect example, and I give Buffalo credit for doing it.
Yeah, Joe Brady also was interviewing for jobs this past week. Didn't seem to impact the game on Sunday, which is, again, the stupid narrative that's out there about, oh, that's why the Lions lost. I don't know if I agree with Joe that they forced 3 turnovers. Lamar Jackson literally just dropped the ball. And then the first interception was just,
it was on second down. The first was on second down. Right.
Yeah, like that was an overthrown interception. That was effectively a bad punt. And then the second one, he just dropped it. Like the only one they really forced is the Mark Andrews situation. And I mean, that just kind of tells you how good Baltimore was, that they were still right there with a chance to take this to overtime, potentially, because there's still going to be a decent amount of time where I do think Buffalo probably goes down and wins the game because Josh Allen is going to be the MVP. And it's certainly
their kicker was on his game yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, Buffalo's a good team. Absolutely. And a lot of credit to what Sean McDermott has been able to do. I know there's a lot of pressure on him once those 13 seconds that were invoked in that game on Sunday as well. They're in Kansas City and not being able to get it done at home, finally getting the Chiefs at home last year, getting Baltimore again in this spot, being able to beat them. Like, I know there's been a lot of pressure, but he's done a great job to be able to get them back in this position to where, yeah, they're going to go to Arrowhead and they're going to have to do something that they have not been able to do when it's mattered the most, and that's beat Kansas City. And we'll see. But with that guy, 17, leading this team, with that defense that, yes, has been outstanding, even if I wouldn't credit all of those turnovers directly to them actually making those plays, they have been good, and they're good enough to go down to Kansas City, where I think they're probably going to win that game. I've been up here saying all year, KC's been getting away with it. Buffalo has been one of the best teams point differential wise and just watching the games all season long. Like, it would not surprise. I would favor Buffalo. They're probably not going to be favored. Yeah, there's the whole mystique of Mahomes, and we'll talk about the officiating, I'm sure, soon here. Man, that Bills team has been a better team than Kansas City all season long. And I think they have a great chance to show that again next Sunday when they go to Arrowhead. And if they do it, it's because of Josh Allen and that defense.
The one difference is Kansas City ain't gonna just give it away. You're gonna have to take it. And I don't know if the conservative game plan will work, but we gotta hear from a man, Kevin Ostreicher, our Wednesday co-host here, about the Ravens and their season. I don't think their window is closed, but it's just that the breeze is starting to feel a little bit too familiar, and they're right where they always be. Listen to Ostreicher.
The Baltimore Ravens season comes to a disappointing thud of an ending. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. 27-25 the final score as the Ravens fall to the Bills in the divisional round, and Buffalo will go on to the AFC Championship game. This is another divisional round loss for Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. Jackson had 2 huge turnovers in this game. Mark Andrews had another one, and Andrews had the most crucial drop of the game on what would have been a game-tying 2-point conversion. It was mistake after mistake after mistake for this Baltimore Ravens team, and the season comes to a very chilling, familiar end. A long and dark offseason is set to take place in Baltimore, and this team is most likely going to have to look in the mirror very long and very hard. For more on the Ravens and their disappointing loss, be sure to check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
If you have a game plan the way that they had it, I think if you look at Derrick Henry's last 5 carries, he averaged like 9 yards a carry. But they were at the end of the game, so you can't use that. I think what hindered them in using that and getting to that strategy were the turnovers and prematurely turning the ball over and then not being able to get the Bills off of the field. But I will tell you this: I am sick of coaches. Looking at that little sheet and chasing those little 1 points in the second quarter and in the third quarter, because if he kicks those 2 PATs from those touchdowns, that game is already tied. And you can't forecast it. I'm just tired of them thinking they have to. You don't get any points for tying the game in the second quarter. It's about winning at the end.
Yeah, but the game pressure, if you're able to tie it, it's a totally different feel than if you are still down by 2. So I didn't disagree with that at all. I'll point this out. Like, I saw this from Tom Habistro, who actually covers the NBA. He put this out there. You look at the first 7 seasons of Peyton Manning and Lamar Jackson. Both those guys were 3-5 in their first 8 playoff games, of course, without a Super Bowl. And for a long time, people talk about Peyton couldn't win the big one until Peyton finally won the big one. Lamar Jackson has been a 2-time MVP. He may be a 3-time MVP. I think it's going to be Josh Allen. I think Josh certainly earned it. This game that played on Sunday will have no determining factor whether he gets it or not. So hopefully, for the sake of everyone's sanity, Josh Allen wins it. So we don't have to hear about how, Josh beat. Okay, we got it. Lamar Jackson's a good player. Josh Allen's a great player as well. but like I think both their times will eventually come.
I do too. I recall Brett Favre at the end of his career winning his Super Bowl. Drew Brees winning his late. Just because they haven't won yet and they're still in their 20s doesn't mean they're going to end up like Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers had a great career, but don't get it twisted.
Well, they don't play with the Chargers, so they'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Shout out to the Chargers, Wade and Drogi. I didn't say it. He said it. But you know what? I'm going to back him up because he's on my show. So you don't be coming for my boy, JC. All right. I'm going to talk about a tag team. You got to have great players on both sides of the ball, and Philly's great players save their you-know-what. Shout out to the Giants and to the NFL for letting Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter end up in Philadelphia. We'll talk about that in the third and final segment here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, third and final segment here on Locked On NFL here on a Monday after playoff weekend. Shout out to the Los Angeles Rams for a valiant effort, better than a lot of people thought it was going to be. In fact, I actually thought they were going to pull it off at the end of the game, but moral victories don't matter. We'll hear from Lou DiBiase of Locked On Eagles about the efforts of the Philadelphia Eagles, specifically for me, Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter.
Missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Felt like it was about to end the Philadelphia Eagles season, but the hero of this game, Jalen Carter, said no. The Eagles have a home NFC Championship game next Sunday, and it was mainly because of number 98. I'm Louis DiBiase, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Trust me, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley's historic generational performance. Nolan Smith in the pass rush took over this game. But when it felt like the Eagles just could not put the Rams away and continued to shoot themselves in the foot, Jalen Carter said, no, we are getting to the NFC title. I am a generational talent. Two huge plays by Carter made sure the Eagles won this game. It's 16-15. Jalen Hurts just took a big sack in the end zone for a safety. Jalen Carter punches the ball out right after that forced fumble. The drive of the game, down 6. The Rams have the ball in the 15 to win the game. Jalen Carter gets the sack on third down. That was a Hall of Fame worthy performance, and the Eagles won.
Whoa.
Listen, man.
Whoa, settle down.
Yeah, on those two plays, I love Jalen Carter, but on those two plays, even guys like Marcus Spears were saying, best player on the field, and you don't block him. They let him go. It's like the Rams offensive line was running from the smoke, bro. You can't let him have a free run at that point. And talk about him first, and then we'll get to Saquon.
Yeah, I mean, he's outstanding. And when he was at Georgia, the question about Jalen Carter was, would he give the effort, play in and play out? And then he had the whole speeding issue, which Georgia player doesn't have that issue down there in Athens? Get it together, Kirby. But that was a question about him heading into the draft. Like, was he going to be mature enough? So you got questions about his want to, his maturity. And since being in Philly with other Georgia Bulldogs, mind you, and other veteran players like a Brandon Graham to sit there and to make sure, and Fletcher Cox when he's still there, to make sure he grew up. I mean, he is a monster. And Philly has been known for, like, I brought up Fletcher Cox. I brought up Brandon Graham, who's been out for the season. I mean, they've had these dudes on that defensive line for a while that have just been outstanding. And they got another one who's going to be there terrorizing NFL offensive linemen for the next decade. So get ready for that, everybody in the NFC and all around the NFL, because that man, he's something else.
Yeah, he is something else. You know what's something else? Number 26. Thank you, New York Giants, for letting him go. I know that hurts, but I'm going to say this. he might, in my opinion, be the true MVP. Saquon Barkley might be if there's a person, and I know it's a team game, that's the singular factor for a team being able to advance, it's Saquon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to disagree with that. You look at the injuries that Jalen Hurts had late in the season. I mean, he gets injured again, hurt his knee in that game, and that will certainly be a discussion point throughout the week. But Saquon's just been great. And this is one of those things, like, I always think that every time a season ends this late in the year, your biggest weakness is what ends up costing you in the end. The Rams were 11th. They were the 11th worst run defense in the NFL. They gave up 200 and what was it, 85 yards in this game, including 205.
He has 460 in 2 games. That would rank him 45th in the league in rushing this year.
Well, he had run what, 78 to close it out. Jalen Hurts, that opening touchdown, had 44 yards on a touchdown. Saquon had another one that was 62 yards. Just things. I mean, this guy's been doing this since, like, obviously in high school, but at Penn State was doing it, and then doing it with the Giants. And now with the Eagles, and I know Giants fans are upset about it. And I mean, I have Panther fans who are like, oh my God, look at Jeremy Chin and Frankie Louva out there and watching have success. And I mean, it's different because that's not the same division, but, like, you know, sometimes you should be happy for the dude. Instead of being out there and losing on one of the worst teams in the league, he's out here thriving and really reviving the entirety of the running back position that was been undervalued. And I'm someone who doesn't believe in paying running backs that much money, unless you got a guy like Saquon Barkley, who's worth every single penny and probably is underpaid.
Moving on to the obvious game, the Chiefs. If y'all think I ain't gonna give Chiefs some love, I am. But I'm gonna give it to them on tomorrow's Locked On NFL PM show, because I really want to dive into the greatness and the subtle things that the Chiefs do. And I know there's a lot of people talking about the officiating. I saw it too. I just think this is another basketball thing. Julian's right there in ACC country. Coaches always say, if you play a certain way all the time, if you're always aggressive, eventually they're going to stop blowing the whistle and they're going to let you get away with stuff because they ain't going to foul the whole damn team out. I just think the Chiefs just always push the line with the little details, with every little single thing that goes into winning. So I'm going to save my Kansas City love for tomorrow's show, but I will give you a chance to talk about the Chiefs, Julian, because there's a lot of people that want them to lose next week.
Yeah, that won't be me, unfortunately. I just gonna be honest. Living here in Charlotte, there's a lot of people who are from Buffalo that live down here. They love Buffalo with all their hearts, yet they don't live there, and they have painted the city with wing sauce and blue cheese, and I can't stand it. I know I'm a hater, whatever. Exactly, I do hate the Buffalo Bills. But I do not want to see these people throw a parade in my own city. So please, you can live here, assimilate, try, go home with that stuff. I need Kansas City to win this game on Sunday, and I need the refs also to help the Chiefs win this game on Sunday. And let's not sit here and pretend like it's not a thing, because it is a thing. And I brought it up throughout the season. Like, I don't necessarily care, because it's not like it's going to be the worst thing in the world for me if the Chiefs win games. Like, okay, like, it has no impact on my life. But we all can tell what happened for those 20 years in New England with Brady and Belichick are now happening there in Kansas City with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They're getting preferential treatment. They are obviously the league's biggest draw. They are the team that all the Patriots fans, who used to be Patriots fans, are now fans of as the bandwagon team. It's just what happens. And Patrick Mahomes gets officiated differently. And I remember once upon a time, Cam Newton being told, you're not old enough to get that call. And Patrick, he's getting every single call. He's been all of them. It's the thing is, it's not necessarily you're old enough, but you're not good enough. And like LeBron James in the NBA, he gets the calls because he's got the cachet. He's got the rings. He's got the name. He is who they're putting in the marquee, and they got to protect their best asset. And the refs might not be necessarily being given orders by the NFL to call these plays, but they're humans.
Yeah, you know? They are. And their coach has cachet. You know, it's like you don't want to piss off Mr. Belvedere over there. You know what I'm saying? He's just a nice guy, and everybody loves Andy Reid. I'm going to torture Kevin Oestreicher tomorrow. So, I'm segueing into telling y'all to look at Locked On NFL. I'm actually going to talk about the Chiefs with the dude that covers the Ravens. So, good luck to that one. But you guys tune in. Thank you again for Julian Counsel letting us prod and poke on him today about especially the Buffalo Bills part. Y'all don't know that was a softball for me to let Julian rip off on the Bills a little bit. But no, thank you for joining Locked On NFL. Make sure you tap in tomorrow with Tyler rolling early in the morning on the Locked On NFL AM, and then slide back through the barbershop tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again to Julian Counsel. We'll see you next time here on Locked On NFL.